They tore down my family's 80-year-old bridge at 6 in the morning on a Tuesday, bulldozer roaring, dust everywhere. The stones my grandfather laid with his own hands in 1943 crumbling into the creek. They stood there filming it, laughing. What they didn't know was that I owned the only other road leading into their gated neighborhood, 85 houses, and I was about to give them a very expensive lesson about property rights. My name is Garrett Sullivan, 54 years old, third-generation civil engineer, living on 127 acres of quiet Pennsylvania woods. My grandfather, William Pop Sullivan, bought the land during the Depression and built everything himself, barn, house, and in 1943, the stone and timber bridge over Blackwater Creek. It took him 8 months. He hauled the stones from the creek bed, cut and milled the timber by hand, forged the iron brackets at the blacksmiths. When I was a boy, I learned to fish under that bridge. Every time I crossed it, I heard his voice, "Build something right, it'll outlast you." 18 months ago, a developer built Meadowbrook Estates on the old Kowalik farm. 85 houses, a gated community with an HOA that thought it ruled the county. During construction, they needed a sewage easement through my land, and I agreed $12,000, everything legal and recorded. That should have been the end of it. Then I met Darlene Pritchett, the newly elected HOA president. 62, real estate agent, Tesla driver, professional bully. One April morning, she appeared at my door with a certified letter, no warning. It ordered me to remove my bridge in 30 days, calling it an eyesore and flood hazard. I told her politely the bridge was on my land, and her HOA had no authority. She smiled that patronizing smile and said, "We have documentation showing it's abandoned county infrastructure." I laughed. Her study was 4 pages from a landscaping company. No engineer had even signed it. She left, promising to follow proper channels. A week later, I woke to the sound of engines, ran outside in boots and boxers, no time for a shirt, and saw a bulldozer tearing through my bridge. Stone cracking, timber splashing, and there stood Darlene with 2 board members, filming. I yelled. The operator waved me off. Lady said it's county demo. 40 minutes later, the bridge was rubble. When the sheriff finally arrived, Darlene calmly handed him a folder. "We removed the hazard," she said. "We saved the county a lawsuit." That's when I realized she didn't see me as a person, just an obstacle. I sat on my porch, the smell of crushed limestone in the air, and decided if she wanted to play with property rights, she'd picked the wrong engineer. Next morning, I hired Mitch Kowalski, an old high school friend turned landlaw attorney. He looked at the photos and said, "Garrett, this is the clearest property destruction case I've seen in 20 years. We filed an injunction and a lawsuit for $78,000 in damages. Darlene's lawyers countered, claiming the bridge had been in public use so long it belonged to the county, something called adverse possession. Mitch laughed. They didn't do their homework. You've got 30 years of repair receipts. That kills their claim. He was right. I kept every invoice, wood, bolts, gravel, sealant. Paper trails win court cases. We submitted the records, photos, and tax documents proving the bridge was always part of my property. 3 weeks later, the judge threw out her counterclaim. Round 1 to me. But Darlene didn't back down. Her HOA hired a big city law firm and filed motions calling my suit frivolous harassment. They even demanded I pay their $50,000 legal fees. Then came their settlement offer. I dropped my case. They dropped theirs, and they donate $5,000 to a local veterans fund in my grandfather's name. Mitch called it a PR stunt. I stared at the paper. They tore down what he built with his hands, and now want to slap his name on a charity check. I pushed it back. Tell them no. 2 days later, Darlene went nuclear. Screenshots from the private HOA Facebook group spread everywhere, calling me unstable, claiming I was blocking safety improvements, even hinting I'd lost my mind after my wife's death. Strangers I'd never met called me selfish, dangerous, crazy. My friend Lyle called. "You gonna respond?" he asked. "No," I said. "I'm not playing her game." "Then what are you gonna do?" "Win." I pulled out my old Rolodex. Engineers, surveyors, county clerks, people who remembered how things used to be done. Soon, I got a quiet call from Rosalie Chin at the county office. She told me Darlene had been fast-tracking construction permits for new community projects. Suspiciously fast, and that the commissioner signing them was her boyfriend, Todd Giesham. They even owned a Florida condo together. That was the moment I smiled again, because people who think they're untouchable always get sloppy. For 2 days, I lived in the county records office. Old survey maps, yellow papers, dusty blueprints, everything tied to Meadowbrook Estates. And then I found it. Their sewage system had a conditional permit that expired 14 months ago. Commissioner Giesham, Darlene's boyfriend, had quietly signed 2 illegal extensions. I called my former intern, Brianna Hull, now an environmental engineer. When I explained, she said, "Garrett, that's a violation. If someone reports it, the DEP must inspect within 60 days. If it fails, the community loses sewage service, and every household pays $400 a month to truck it out." I hesitated only until the next morning, when Darlene struck again. 3 code enforcement citations in 1 day, an old truck junk vehicle, a hazardous burn pile, and illegal signage because my no trespassing signs were 2 inches too tall. I called a young officer who'd issued them. Nervous voice. "Mr. Sullivan, I was told to check your property daily." He wouldn't say who ordered it, but we both knew. That night I filled out the DEP complaint form, attached the expired permits, and dropped it in the mail. If Darlene wanted to weaponize bureaucracy, I'd show her how a professional did it. A week later, the citations kept coming. Dust from my gravel driveway, stacked firewood visible from the road, mailbox too far from the curb. Each carried $150 a day fines. I documented everything for Mitch, who said calmly, "Good, let them bury themselves." Then came an unexpected ally. Sunday afternoon, Kent Ashford, Meadowbrook's HOA treasurer, knocked on my door. "I can't take it anymore," he said. "She's been paying herself consulting fees, $4,000 a month, and she used HOA funds to pay for the demolition of your bridge. Labeled it emergency repair. No board vote." He handed me bank records and invoices. I stared at them, stunned. "Kent, why risk this?" He sighed. "Because she fined my wife for planting the wrong color roses. I'm done." His evidence turned my personal feud into a corruption case. I called journalist Andrea Walsh, known for exposing county scandals. We met at a diner. I gave her everything: photos, permits, financial documents, testimony. 5 days later, the headline hit. County commissioner linked to developer. Ethics investigation launched. News vans swarmed the courthouse. Giesham denied wrongdoing, but the county ethics board opened a probe within 48 hours. For the first time, Darlene wasn't in control. Then Andrea called again, giddy. "Garrett, we've verified the embezzlement. The next story drops tomorrow." By sunrise, every TV channel had it. HOA president accused of self-dealing. Darlene's empire collapsed overnight. Residents turned on her, demanding her resignation. Within a week, she was out, voted off the board, banned from meetings, facing possible criminal charges. But I wasn't celebrating. This wasn't about destroying her. It was about rebuilding what she took. I wanted my bridge back. Mitch and I prepared for the public mediation hearing. The township wanted transparency, and the room was packed. Cameras everywhere, hundreds of people. Across the table, Darlene looked smaller, shaken, her once perfect smile gone. I stood and spoke. 18 months ago, Meadowbrook Estates destroyed my grandfather's bridge on my property without permits. They filmed it while laughing. Then came harassment, code citations, and lies. I clicked through photos. The bulldozer mid-demolition, Darlene watching. Gasped from the crowd. Next, I said, playing the Midnight Chainsaw video. Her son's rental truck on camera. Trees fell across my private road. "I haven't pressed charges," I said quietly, "because I'm not after revenge. I'm after justice." Then I showed the deeds. Proof I owned Old Mill Road, the only other access route to Meadowbrook, and that their utility easement had expired 14 months earlier. I could shut it all down tomorrow, I told the room. Legally. But I won't, because innocent people shouldn't pay for one person's arrogance. I laid down my terms. $78,000 compensation for damages, full reconstruction of the bridge, historically accurate, a public apology in the township newspaper for 2 weeks, a new 20-year easement at $500 per month, permanent free access for emergency vehicles, and an end to all harassment. When I finished, the silence was thick. Darlene's lawyer whispered frantically. The board huddled. Then their interim president stood. Mr. Sullivan, we accept your terms. On behalf of the community, I apologize. What happened was wrong. Darlene said nothing, just stood, eyes blank, and walked out to scattered whispers. Within a week, $78,000 hit my account. The apology ran in the paper, formal, signed by the new board. The bridge reconstruction began in June. Local stonemason Vernon helped rebuild it from the same creek stones Pop had once used. By September, it stood finished, strong, elegant, alive again. At the dedication, neighbors and families gathered. Kids painted small stones of the path. One little girl asked, "Why, build it again?" I smiled, because bridges connect people, and this one almost tore us apart. Later, I used part of the settlement to create the Pop Sullivan Trade Scholarship, a $5,000 yearly award for local students studying engineering or the trades. The first recipient was Kent's daughter. Meadowbrook changed too. New board, public transparency, audits, no more corruption. Even the county reformed its permit system. Darlene sold her house and left Pennsylvania. 6 months later, on a quiet spring morning, I sipped coffee on my porch as the rebuilt bridge glowed in the sunrise. A truck passed, the driver waved, and I waved back. The stones gleamed wet from the creek spray, solid as ever. Pop used to say, "Build something right, it'll outlast you." He was right. Not just a bridge, but the truth, the principle, the fight to do things the right way. So, to anyone out there facing bullies, remember, you don't need to shout to win. You just need the truth, the law, and the patience to let both do their work.